Welcome to Dumbass News for October 1st, 2023, where our motto is news of the dumbasses, by the dumbasses, and for the dumbasses. Ralph, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So first, we're back. It's Ralphie G back on the mic. And let's take a look at what we got first this week. Let's take a look at some of the crazy shit of the week. So, James, I'll read this and then I want to hear your take on it. Meta and Salesforce are looking to rehire some workers they just laid off. It's putting those people in an awkward spot. Meta is rehiring some of the 10,000 staffers it laid off this year.
So we actually want to talk about this because we work with someone who we won't name, who we work at a company that did layoffs, and then they wanted to rehire just one person, and they rehired this guy for his same job back a few months after being laid off. I think ever since then, me and Ralph have been wondering what the interview process was like when you're re-interviewing for your same job. I feel like all the same questions they ask don't make sense anymore. Like I ask, hey Ralph, what makes you think that you are qualified for this position?
And it's like, well, I was before. So,
Do you have any relevant experience for the position?
yeah, GitHub repo 1, commit 992. That's me, baby.
Why did you leave your last employer?
I was laid off in a wild way where they just had a company meeting and they were like, hey, you know what? In 15 minutes, we're going to tell you either you're safe or you're let go.
Yeah, I just feel like especially if you know the interviewers, that would really make it even more awkward. Like, hey
Yeah,
guys, remember
so
me? Can I come back?
yeah, I was fortunate enough to be one of the ones that interviewed this guy coming back, right? So we did the layoffs. We needed one engineer, and the bosses, they met with him, and then they were like, Ralph, we just want you to talk to him. And I didn't talk about relevant experience or anything. My whole conversation in the back of my head was, how disgruntled is this employee? Is he going to come in and just, delete everything and be like, peace?
Yeah, checking that he's coming back with good intention. Yeah,
And
I wonder what it would be like to get that phone call too, or or I don't know. I mean, I gather someone reached out, reaches out to you, or do you just hear about like, yeah, the company's hiring again, maybe I'll go back? If you get that phone call, I'd be like, wait, you want me to come back? How the
part
turntables?
part of me would be like, wait, I thought I was fired. Like when I first got that phone call, I'd be like, oh shit, I heard it wrong. I wasn't fired and I've been supposed to be working.
Yeah, it's just like, water under the bridge. Forget about the past few months where we made you go job hunting. Just come back. Come back and do your same old thing again.
But I mean, like, and on all accounts, we're small potatoes when it comes to the company that we work for. So I could just imagine Meta and Salesforce having these type of conversations thousands and thousands of times.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you're having to do the same interview, like those companies interview really hardcore. So like doing the same interview pipeline again would just be like, oh, come on, I just passed this. Like, why do I have to take this again? Can't I just like grandfather in or something? You guys know I can do this whiteboard problem solving crap. Like, let me in here.
And as a software engineer, if let's say I was let go and they wanted me back, and I'm like, oh, okay, if they're like, your coding interview is next, I'd be like, I'm out. I draw the line at doing a coding interview again. I'm done.
Yeah, you guys know I can code, okay? You could probably find my code in your system. In fact, I'm sure you can.
Actually, on that case, no, let me do the coding interview. I want a second chance. Don't look at the code I wrote for you before.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see what else we got going on. So,
We got
James,
political
I'm
dumbasses of the week. Every
one
week,
of our
honestly.
It's becoming one of our favorite segments.
When you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day.
You mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years, and so full disclosure.
No, just no.
Kind of a flex by Pence, right? He's kind of like, listen, I've been getting some. Let me tell you.
It's crazy how much courage it takes Pence to admit that he is married to a human woman. Like, he's like, I gotta tell you, you can hear him like breathing into the mic, like, well, I've been sleeping with a teacher. Also, Christie started it off really weird, Christie, because it was like, Joe Biden is married to a teacher, but he made it real like scandalous sounding, like he's been sleeping with a teacher, which just sounds like way more weird than it is. Like,
yeah, it's like he's been sleeping with a teacher. I kind of hope so. I mean, he's married to one. I hope it's a healthy relationship. And I also like when Pence is like, I've also been sleeping with a teacher. Christie kind of looked a little jealous. He was kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, you're right. Damn. You got.
I also like how Mike Pence threw in full disclosure. It's like, it's not a disclosure. It's like a known fact. It's like, you're not telling us anything. Like, people can look up who you're married to. Like, it's not like full disclosure. I think I should let everyone know that I am married to a teacher. So
Mike Pence was definitely that guy that, when he had a joke, and part of joking is timing, right? And he had a joke and he's like, okay, I need to kind of build to it a little bit. But by his demeanor, you could tell, yeah, he's building to this joke. And it's like, no, trust me, we're getting there. Like, he's just so excited.
yeah, I love the anchor's reaction too. Like, at the end, I really had the same one, which is like, no, just no. Both of you are being like very obnoxious.
And this was during the Republican debate, right?
Yeah, a few days ago. Yeah.
And this kind of further cements that these debates, Democrat, Republican, otherwise, oh my God, it's just all, it's all a show. And your main thing at this debate, don't say the right thing, but get on the headlines. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. It's like, let's just make headlines no matter what we're talking about. Biden, he's sleeping with a teacher. Let's see if that gets on there.
Yeah, I like the little news ticker for this. Christie accuses Biden of sleeping with teacher, his wife. Like, he does say it like it's an accusation, but it's not an accusation when it's something very obvious and like not weird. But like the way Christie says it makes it sound weird. It's just like, what a weird guy. What, like, a weird conversation between these two. I don't know.
And I could just imagine at home, Biden's doctor, like, there's no way that man could perform. I've been watching his health for years, and he is not up to the task anymore.
Oh, poor Biden.
I know. I always take shots at Biden. It's too easy, though. I got to stop. It's kind of like when Trump was president. It's too easy. You got to stop. At some point, you got to find jokes in other places.
The guy in charge is always taking the shots, right?
That's right.
Defending them rather than advocating for.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So, James, you want to introduce this one?
All right. So over the weekend, they were working on some spending bills to try and not have a government shutdown, which I appreciate that they did, by the way, because I'm going to DC this week and I was going to be pissed that everything was going to be shut down. They pulled it out the last minute. But what happened here is one of the, he's a Democratic congressman from New York. They were supposed to have a vote, and the fire alarm went off like right before the vote, and so everyone had to leave. This is actually in the building next to the Capitol. It's not like in the Capitol itself. It's called the Cannon Building. But then they're trying to figure out what happened, and then they released this photo of him like pulling it, and then his office released this statement saying, well, yeah, go to the next picture. So they said it was an accident, and then he was being interviewed about like how that happened. And so basically what he was saying is I there's a locked door that I encountered that's normally unlocked, and I needed to go through the door to make it to the vote. And I saw the fire alarm, and I know it's a fire alarm, but I didn't think it would set off the whole building, and I thought it would open the door.
And I love, just to go back to the picture for a second, this is like the grainy footage you see in like murder documentaries. Like this man was seen 2 minutes before the murder. And it's just like, it's clearly red-handed because there is a fire alarm right there.
I love too how like everyone has, $100 Nest cameras on their houses that are like super clear, but the
Yep.
Capitol has these like 80s style bank, surveillance systems that like you can't really see. People are like, I think that's Bowman, but I'm not totally sure. Like,
And the person writing this article, they're taking shots at Bowman, just doing a masterful job at painting a picture where it's like he got the alarm, which is red, and says fire in capital letters. Let's not let him off the hook at all.
yeah. I think another funny thing about this is like, he seemed to think pulling that alarm would open the door, which would make you wonder why the door is ever locked in the first place. If pulling the fire alarm just kind of opens the door, it's basically like another door handle, and there's no reason to lock it. Not really following the logic here. And also, like, fire alarm that doesn't trip the whole building, it just trips that room you're in. Like, hey, this room might be on fire, you should get out of it.
And like, now this was both Bowman saying, first thing he said was, I thought it would help me open the door. And the second thing he said was, I didn't know it triggered the whole building. So is he admitting to, I'd hit a fire alarm to trigger part of the building?
Yeah. So
Straight
people are
up.
accusing him of stalling the vote, which I have no idea if that's what he was
Yeah.
doing. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I think he couldn't deny that he pulled it because that picture came out of just him with his hand on the fire alarm. I have to tell a quick story about this because I have accidentally pulled a fire alarm in real life, and it was an actual
Yes.
accident. When I was in college, I was in this building that's like 4 stories tall, maybe has, 50 classrooms in it. It's like the biggest building on the campus. And I was waiting for class to start, and I had my backpack on, and I was standing and I kind of leaned back into the wall and set off the fire alarm. And you can't stop it. And so then they were evacuating the whole building, and I was like shitting a brick because a couple people in the class saw me do it, and so they were joking like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell people that you set off the fire alarm." I'm like, don't do that, don't. It was an accident. You saw what happened. Just standing outside, like so scared. So I know the feeling, but I didn't put my hand on it. I just like,
yeah, that is not your fault. That is the alarm's fault in that situation.
Yeah, I was like, shouldn't I have a case on it? Like, I feel like it shouldn't be this easy.
Oh, that's pretty good. I think we're ready to move on, though. What do you think?
Sure.
All right. Well, this week there weren't just human dumbasses that we wanted to talk about. The weather. The weather in some states can also be a dumbass. And James, I'm not sure if you heard about what happened in New York City this past week.
A little bit.
Let's take a look.
My first reaction is nothing stops the traffic. People have to drive. People will drive to work. It does not matter what the road is like.
This has to be unprecedented flooding for New York City. This is insane.
Yeah. I was also wondering where that whirlpool is going. Is that like first of all, does that go to another dimension, like the upside down? But I mean, it's probably like a sewer manhole, and that's what's going down there, but it's like
It's working overtime. It's just trying to get rid of all of the water.
It looks powerful, like you could get dragged into it or something. There was a bottle floating to it, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. And then they turned away, and I was no, I wanted to see what I wanted to see the bottle get sucked up in the vortex and like fall down.
Now, I've seen a couple of these videos. How quick did the flooding occur? Because I just kind of like you said, nothing will stop the traffic and or foot traffic in New York City.
Yeah, I think this was taken on like a Friday morning, like Friday, 9 a.m. or something. I think it was flooding like it was raining like in the early hours. They said it rained like 4 inches in like 3 hours, something like that. It's just like insane.
Yeah, and I can attest that me being in New England, we did have stupid rain. We've had stupid rain for too long. There was a stat the other day that was like 13 out of the 15 weekends of the summer were rained out. And I was like, yeah, I felt it. But back to this really quick. I think this further cements my stance, and I've never said it before, and it could be controversial, that New York City is unsustainable. It is just an area that people flock to and trash and just leave. And so I don't understand how it still runs. Have you ever been to New York City?
No, I've never been. I would like to, because so I live in Albuquerque, and the tallest building we have here is like 24 stories. So I feel like seeing buildings there that are 100 stories would like really impress my dumbass brain that's never seen a building that tall. But no, never been. In Albuquerque, we get really bad rainstorms. Actually, they don't last that long, but they are really strong. We get monsoon rainstorms in the summer. But we have this huge like arroyo system that runs through the city. These like ditches that are huge, like I don't know, maybe like 20-30 feet deep at least. Like these in between some of the highways, there's these big like ramp ditch things, and they'll totally fill with water. When I was a kid or like a teenager, I used to skateboard and stuff and spent a lot of time in those arroyos. They're like really popular skating spots, skating up and down them. And then, sometimes it rains and it's like, get out. Like there's all kinds of stuff they tell you in school here, like ditches are deadly and like stay out of the ditches. And, because they flash flood like crazy, but then, it never looks like this really. Like the streets will get a little flooded, but like our arroyos are legit.
Yeah, I've grown up around Boston, and the only place I've seen almost like this is Sturrow Drive, Sturrow Drive is notoriously a bad, I guess you could call it a highway, going into Boston. It's not a highway. It's like the DMV of roads. Nobody wants to be on it. It's going to take a long time, and you're not going to be happy when you're done. I think we have more content here of New York City. Wow.
Yeah, so this is a picture from Reddit. I don't know if this is in New York City proper, because that is a pretty big backyard, but this is someone's poor apartment. The craziest thing about this photo to me, that door is looking like, I feel like you just be looking at the door like, please, please stay up. Because like, imagine how much water will come in if that door breaks. But also if you look in like kind of the bottom right, there's like an electrical outlet with water coming out of it.
Wow. That means the water has gotten in the walls. Your power is definitely out.
You should hope so.
And when the power comes on, you're all about to get some shock treatment,
Yeah, it's just crazy to see. But if you look at that water level, it's like higher. It's like quite a bit higher than the outlet. So it's like no wonder. But like, yeah, anywhere in that place where water could be leaking out of, it will be soon.
I wish I was as strong as that door, though. That door is putting in overtime right now.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that it's not like leaking around the edges of that door or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
whoever installed that was very, very good.
They were serious about the insulation.
The worst part is, imagine if this is an apartment or something, and you live on the first floor, and that's it. Like you don't have a second floor to run to.
Well, I feel like the way, I'm sure you can relate, like the way a lot of us lived through COVID, like if you're a software engineer, you work remotely, it's like COVID is happening and all this other stuff, and you're still working. You're like sitting in your house, like doing work on your computer while like shit is on fire outside.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe this guy, like that's a nice office chair. I noticed that's a steel case leap, and like maybe he's still having to work. My house is flooded, but they're like, yeah, but we got features to deliver. You better get in that chair and do work.
The house is flooding, but I do have an interview with Meta again. So let's see if I can get that job back.
Yeah, I need my job back to pay for this flooding damage.
All right. I want to end today's episode just with a little bit of Retrium for a dumbass. And James, I'm not sure if you're up on the news around this, but the writer's strike is over. What have you heard about the writer's strike so far?
I've been following it because, I normally watch a lot of like late night news stuff like Colbert and Seth Meyers and stuff. So I've been pretty bummed it's been out. I've also been like, it's just been interesting to watch. I feel like every time there's a news story about it, they're in front of the protesters, they're in front of the same studio gate, which it turns out my sister lives in Los Angeles, and it turns out that I've passed this gate a few times when I visited her. It's like on the same street as her apartment. It's the Melrose Gate of Paramount Studios. So whenever they show it, I'm like, hey, I know where that is. And I feel very like connected to it.
And I would say the only part of the writer's strike that really hit home, I mean, I love television. Me and you, big fans of Breaking Bad. But something about this strike that really hits home for us is AI was a conversation in this strike. And there's really two things that they were fighting for. Was one, that these networks won't just use ChatGPT to write their scripts. Because as everybody knows who has used ChatGPT, you can literally like write me a script about a guy named Ralph and James and how they saved the world. And we'll get a kick-ass script for that television show. And then number two, oh, you first, sorry.
No, keep going.
And then number two was the actors fighting for the right to not have AI use their likeness after they shoot. Like, for example, it'd be like, I get paid for a day of shooting and I'm on, like, let's say I'm just an extra, but they could use my face later on and I don't get paid for that.
Yeah. I've read stories of people that went into like a scanning, they have these machines that scan people's face. And I've heard story, or maybe they scan their whole body so they could turn you into like a background actor. But like, I've heard stories of people that, are background actors and they're asked to go and do the scan and they don't really know what it's for. And then later they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I just like agreed to this thing, which is like terrible, but
you know what's going to happen next? And I'm fully putting on my tinfoil hat right now. That a Paramount or someone's going to team up with Delta or JetBlue. And you know what you do before getting onto a flight? You go in there, they do the scan. Next thing you know, I'm going to be an extra on the next Tom Cruise movie.
As long as they need people that are background actors that only do this pose.
Like, imagine just a movie where there's a critical scene where everybody's like, it's fun to stay at the Y. And then it's just a huge crowd of people like that.
Yeah. This is random, but I've always gotten a kick out of the name of those machines at the airport. I think they're still called this. It's like the RAPI scan, RAPI scan, but I always read it as the rapey scan. And it does kind of see like your unclothed body. Like, and there's been like scandals about that. So I always see that name and I'm like, you guys should change that to something else. Like, how about just rapid scan? Just add a D. So I can't pronounce it that way and laugh about it. But yeah, the writer's AI thing is crazy too. It's like, I think about this time last year, was when I probably first heard about ChatGPT. I pulled it up on my phone. I was very impressed. I kept telling my wife about it. I was like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm using it to like, it can like, it's like Google on steroids, and it can like format data in the ways I want, and like it can answer all these crazy like logic questions. And then yeah, sure enough, like a few months later, it's like freaking strike about you guys are not using this tool to write scripts.
Yeah. And
Things
like,
move so fast now.
and I mean, I agree that these writers and everyone should be paid, but you know, if ChatGPT can have a killer script, maybe those movies should be paid too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's like a ton of movies and TV shows that I don't think that thing can write. And there's a point to be made that it kind of steals other people's content. It's sort of a regurgitation
Yeah.
machine. It's not going to write a great movie like, Oppenheimer or,
Barbie.
Parasite or Barbie. But like, yeah, there is a class of movies that I don't watch, that I don't like, that I mean, Fast and the Furious 10, Expendables 4. Last time I was at the movies, they had a preview for a movie with Jason Statham where they're in like a underwater base thing and like sharks are trying to get in, and that was a sequel. That was like another one. I was like, oh, come on, like
these movies like that you're mentioning right now, there has to be some ChatGPT AI involved, or these people are just getting high out of their minds and they're like, yo, how about in the next Fast and the Furious movie they go to space, which I think they did in one of the Fast
did they
and
go
the
to
Furious
space
movies.
in one of them?
I think they did, or I'm currently using
Launch
Inception
the Nissan into space and like dock it with the space station.
for family.
Yeah, what up? You guys want to join the family? I've actually never seen a Fast and Furious movie.
Really?
Not even one. Yeah, I'm on protest. I heard the first
Wow.
one's good, but since they've made so many, I'm like, ugh.
There's some, so it's funny how that series, like after the first three are like take themselves a little more seriously, and it's still pretty good, but then it takes such a hard right turn into this is ridiculous, but for some reason it's still good. Like it's hilarious, everybody's having fun. The Rock is like they just add all of these actors that it's like, yeah, I'd love to see him just kick ass. Let's see what happens. And it's hilarious for everybody.
Yeah, I remember seeing a clip from one of them. I think it was like 7 or something, where they like used it to like chase a plane, chase like a big like cargo plane. And someone on Reddit did the math of like, kind of like approximating the speeds they were driving and the takeoff speed of this plane. And I think they calculated that the runway needed to be like 20 miles long, which would make it like several times longer than any runway on Earth. Like, it's just funny. The things people can figure out.
Yeah. But anyway, all that to say is I'm happy the writer's strike is over.
Yeah. And I'm hoping the actors one works out, and I'm hoping they get what they need,
That's right. And James, I think that's what we have this week on Dumbass News.
Yep. No show next week because I'll be taking a vacation for once. But yeah, check us out the week after that. We'll be back with whatever the hell is going on.
And that means we might have news from the past 2 weeks of your life. So be prepared.
Yeah, that might be like a quick hits edition.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and do all the other things that YouTube tells you to do.
Become a member of the Dumbass Nation today.